Today we're going to be taking a look at a small, compact 10 amp multi-chemistry Mppt solar charge controller. My name's Mike, call sign K8MRD, and this is Ham Radio Tube. So I got this while I was at the Huntsville Hamvention. This is the solar charge controller M1210P or OP. I got this from Ham Source. I think it was Ham Source, the same booth that BioEno's at. And it's all Mike N8YO's fault because I saw he had purchased one of these. And I was like, whoa, that looks like something I need for my smaller battery box. I'm constantly trying to find a solar charge controller that will fit in this smaller battery box and be RF quiet, which I still have not found. So maybe this will be it. So we get some instructions here. We've got a couple connectors with some Andersons on it, which is nice to see. And then the charge controller itself looks just like this. Now, when I was driving back from Huntsville, I went on Amazon just to look up the charge controllers. I paid $40 for this at the Huntsville Hamvention. $40. Then I went on Amazon and I searched Mppt charge controller, and sure enough, I found this exact one sold by, would you believe, the last charge controller video we did on this channel was from Batteria Power. Gosh, doesn't that look similar? And if you go to Amazon, they sure enough sell this exact same one. At the time of this recording, they've got it for like $34 with 15% off, so like $29. So I can get this for $11 cheaper. I very strongly doubt Ham Source has anything to do with the manufacturer or what goes inside of this. It's all just rebranded Chinese stuff. So there's that. So first off, this charge controller, it's an Mppt charge controller. It will take up to 10 amps of input from a solar panel. So theoretically, I don't know, a couple 100-watt solar panel, probably. So you've got your standard kind of solar connectors on here, and then these are just little jumper leads that I would imagine Ham Source has them put these on, because online, these are just, there's nothing terminated on these leads, it's just bare wire. So it is nice that we've got the power poles on there, but if this works, I will end up just cutting these off and putting power poles on them. But you've got gel, AGM, and lithium iron phosphate, so multi-chemistry, which is very cool. Very lightweight, very compact. It's, as far as measurements, it's about, 3 3/4 wide by a little over about 2.5 tall. So very small, and then maybe, I don't know, gosh, less than an inch thick. Yeah, about an inch thick. So very small, very tiny. Getting back to the battery box, this is the charge controller here that I have in here. It's only rated for 5 amps. Comes with a heat sink on there. I just took the heat sink off and put some heat shrink on it, and that is good. And it's worked great for me for many years, but it's just so noisy. It's just like, when you plug it into the radio, it's horrible. So hopefully this will be a good solution. And all we have to do to plug this in, we'll just add these little jumpers for now. Very, very easy. One thing I like about this charge controller though, there's no voltage that comes through this. This thing is off unless it sees voltage from a solar panel. There's a little light there, I'll show you. A lot of other charge controllers will turn on once they see power from the battery, just like this one does. So, not a big deal. I can either put a switch on it or we can just unplug it from the battery, but that will slowly draw power. I mean, it's not even registering on my meter here, but it is on. So there's that to think of. So a couple things I want to look at. I want to test, one, is this going to create any RFI? I'll show you what this does, and then hopefully we'll see that this is quiet so we can actually use this. And I want to test the differences between Mppt and PWM. I have inside my Big Geek battery box. This is a BioEno charge controller. This is a PWM. So I want to see, is this charge controller going to put out more power than this charge controller? We're going to hook up a 100-watt panel and see the differences there. So here's what we got. I got a 100-watt BioEno solar panel set up here, and then that's going to go into our battery boxes. Little Geek has an MPPT charge controller, but it's noisy. Big Geek has a PWM that's quiet, and we'll take some. We'll take a look at the spectrum scope on the 705 here and see if we get any noise. We'll also take a look at these meters and see what the power input is going to be from these charge controllers. So first, I just want to show you what my original MPPT charge controller that's inside Little Geek does. Once I plug in the solar panel, we're going to pay attention to this right here. This is our amps, and then this right here is our watts. And as I plug this in, we'll see that start to ramp up. And there we are. So 55.5 watts, about 4.1 amps that we're putting into the battery. This battery's almost charged, but we're getting some pretty good current coming in. But what happens when we look at the radio, this right here is all RFI. Let me turn it up here. Listen to that. That's nasty. And it'll travel up the spectrum too. It doesn't just stay there. So watch when I unplug the solar panel, it immediately goes away, and then when I plug it back in, there it is again. So great for charging, horrible for ham radio. So now we're going to compare the efficiency of the MPPT versus the PWM that I have inside of my Big Geek battery box. See how much more is this really efficient. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in the solar panel into the solar input for Big Geek, and I'll go ahead and turn it on, and we're going to take a look at how much current we're going to get in terms of amps and wattage. So it looks like it's fully ramped up. We're looking at about 48.5 watts coming in, 3.68 amps. And if we go ahead and turn that off, and I'm going to plug in the MPPT into this regular port, and all we're doing by doing this is just bypassing the solar charge controller. Once I turn this switch on, it's going to start. We'll see everything goes through the meter anyway. So let's go ahead and flip the switch, and we should see this start to ramp up. And that took a second, but about 53.8, 54, so about 6 or so more watts versus the PWM. And let's just go ahead and swap that out again. Here's the PWM ramping up, 46.8 watts or so. Go ahead and plug the MPPT back in, turn off that charge controller, plug the solar panel into the MPPT, throw the switch, and we're looking at, about 54 watts versus 48. So what's that? 6 watts difference. So that's a pretty good jump there. Not huge, but some. So it does appear to be more efficient. It is RF quiet, so that's a great thing. So it looks like this guy is going to be a good solution for ham radio and just more efficient charging. So I'm happy. It is interesting that we're only seeing about 6 watts difference in a dead battery. Batteria actually emailed me. They saw my video and they said that, if you have a pretty full battery, you're not going to see much difference between PWM and MPPT. Well, this battery is almost depleted, and there's a 30 amp hour battery inside of here from Bioenno. So we're not seeing as much now. As a system gets bigger, I'm sure this gap would widen quite a bit, but not a huge difference between the two. But it is more efficient, and I think some people have told me MPPT is probably about 15% more efficient. I'm not good at math, so what's the difference between 48 and 54 in terms of percentage? That very well could be it. So either way, this thing works. Now, I just angled the solar panel a little bit more directly facing the sun. We're getting 61.7, 61.8 watts, 4.6 amps. And let's go ahead and see what happens with the PWM now that we're more in direct sunlight. Yeah, only 52 watts there. So the gap is widening quite a bit as we're getting more sun in. So we're definitely seeing more of that efficiency from the MPPT charge controller. So the proof is in the pudding. Well, there we have it. A multi-chemistry MPPT charge controller that's RFI quiet. It's everything a ham could ask. It actually works. I'm amazed. Guys, if you find these videos helpful, hit that thumbs up button. Also consider hitting the subscribe. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again on another episode of Ham Radio Tube.